What? No, no, that
She
can't
was
be
folding
right.
laundry when she heard her husband's voice coming from her phone. He'd called 20 minutes ago and said, "I love you," before hanging up. Except he hadn't hung up. And the words she heard next shattered everything. "Don't worry, she has no idea. Once the baby is born, she'll be out of the picture and the money will all be ours." This is the story of Natalie Chin, a 31-year-old art teacher from San Francisco who married billionaire tech entrepreneur James Morrison. Everyone called it a fairy tale. But on a Thursday afternoon in November, Natalie discovered her entire 5-year marriage was an elaborate con designed to steal a $2 billion inheritance. What she overheard was just the beginning. The truths she uncovered in the next 72 hours would expose a conspiracy so cruel it would make national headlines. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Comment watching if you're ready to hear what was really on that call. That phone call raised impossible questions. Who was James talking to? What baby? Natalie wasn't pregnant, they'd been trying for 2 years with no success. What did "out of the picture" mean? And what money? She'd signed a prenup, she'd get nothing in a divorce. Over the next 3 days, Natalie would become a detective in her own life, discovering that the affair wasn't the worst of it. Her husband had married her as part of a calculated scheme that started before they even met. And the woman he was having an affair with? Natalie's own cousin, who had pointed James toward her like she was a target. Comment betrayed if you've ever discovered someone was lying to you, because what comes next will show you how deep deception can go. Natalie grew up middle class in Sacramento, became an art teacher in San Francisco, and met James Morrison in 2019 at a community art show. He seemed humble, genuine, standing in front of her painting for 10 minutes before telling her it was beautiful. They talked for hours about art and light and beauty. He didn't tell her he was a billionaire until their 4th date. "I wanted you to know me first," James had said. "Not my bank account." Natalie fell in love with the man, not the money. They married a year later in a small ceremony in Napa, writing their own vows. "You're the first person who saw me, really saw me," James said during the ceremony, tears in his eyes. "I promise to spend every day making sure you know how much that means." Natalie believed every word. For 5 years, James seemed like the perfect husband. Attentive, loving, supportive of her teaching career. They tried to have children, but after 2 years of failed fertility treatments, they'd decided to take a break. "We have each other," James had said just 2 months ago. "That's enough." It was all a lie. That Thursday, James called Natalie around 2 in the afternoon. They talked for 3 minutes, nothing important, just connection. He said he'd be home late, maybe 9 or 10. "I love you," he said before hanging up. Except he didn't hang up. 20 minutes later, Natalie went to get her phone and noticed the call was still active. 43 minutes on the timer. She put it to her ear and heard voices. James was talking to a woman. "I know it's been complicated," James said, "but we're almost there. Just a few more months." "I'm 7 months pregnant, James," the woman said, and Natalie felt her world tilt. "I can't keep hiding this forever." "I know," James said with a tenderness Natalie recognized. "But we have to be careful about timing. The moment we move too fast, her lawyers get involved and everything becomes complicated." "What about the prenup?" the woman asked. "She signed it," James confirmed. "But there are ways to challenge it. That's why we wait until after the baby is born. Once we have a child together, once we prove this relationship predates the marriage, the legal landscape changes." Natalie sat down on the bedroom floor, barely breathing. "I hate lying to her," the woman said. "She seems nice." "She is," James replied. "But nice doesn't change reality. Natalie was always meant to be temporary. She just doesn't know it yet." Temporary. The word felt like a knife. "Once the baby is born," James continued, "we'll finalize everything and she'll be out of the picture. The money will all be ours." "All of it?" the woman asked. All of it, James said. The prenup protects my assets in divorce, but there's a loophole involving spousal fraud. My lawyers have been working on this for 3 years. It's airtight. 3 years. More than half their marriage. And she has no idea? The woman asked. None, James said. Natalie's trusting, almost naive. She thinks our marriage is solid. She thinks I love her. Don't you? The woman asked. James laughed, and the sound made Natalie's skin crawl. I'm fond of her. She's beautiful, talented, good company. But love? No. This was always business, Victoria. You know that. Victoria. Natalie's cousin Victoria. The betrayal took on a new dimension. When are you telling her? Victoria asked. After New Year, James said. I'll say the marriage isn't working, that I've met someone else. She'll be hurt, but she'll move on. With the prenup, she gets a small settlement. She'll go back to teaching, find someone else. She'll be fine. The call ended. Natalie sat on the floor surrounded by her husband's laundry and felt her entire life reveal itself as an elaborate lie. Natalie didn't scream or call James demanding answers. If he'd been planning this for 3 years with lawyers, confronting him emotionally would be suicide. So she became strategic. She went to James's home office, a room she'd never entered without permission. Inside his files, she found documents that made her stomach turn. A paternity agreement dated from before she even met James, establishing him as the father of Victoria Chan's child. Legal papers about asset protection strategies and timeline for dissolution of primary marriage. Private investigator reports about her, documenting her daily routine, proving she hadn't been unfaithful or suspicious. They were building a case to ensure she had no leverage. There were emails between James and Victoria going back 6 years, to before Natalie met James. The oldest one read, Victoria, it was good seeing you at the Chin family reunion. I've been thinking about your proposal. Let's meet to discuss details. Natalie's family reunion. Victoria had suggested her own cousin as a target. More emails showed how they'd planned everything. Victoria told James that Natalie would be at that art show, gave him details about her work so he'd know what to say. Their entire first meeting was scripted. But why? Natalie found the answer in a document titled, Estate Planning Strategy. James had a trust fund from his late father worth $2 billion. The terms required him to be married and have a biological child to access it. But if he could prove marital fraud, if his existing relationship with Victoria predated the marriage, he could access the trust and then divorce without penalty. Natalie was a prop in a scheme to steal $2 billion. Then she found something worse. Medical records showing James had been sabotaging their fertility treatments, switching her medications with placebos. For 2 years, Natalie had blamed herself for not getting pregnant. The whole time, James was ensuring she couldn't conceive while getting Victoria pregnant instead. Natalie photographed every document and uploaded them to cloud accounts James didn't know about. Then she found video files labeled with their wedding date. Security footage from their wedding venue, timestamped 2 hours before the ceremony. It showed James and Victoria embracing, kissing, her hand on her small baby bump. I can't believe you're marrying her, Victoria said. It's just business, James replied. A year, maybe 2, then we can be together publicly. They'd been together on her wedding day, hours before Natalie walked down the aisle. There were more videos. Hotel footage throughout their marriage. James and Victoria together, intimate, proving the affair never stopped. One video from last month showed James meeting with a lawyer. Once Victoria gives birth in January, you file for divorce in February, the lawyer said. We'll claim Natalie's a security risk, escort her out of the house with 48 hours to find housing. She can only take personal items. That seems harsh, James said casually. It's necessary. Quick, clean, complete removal. If she contests, we'll claim she married you knowing about Victoria, that she was complicit in defrauding you. Natalie's hands shook. They weren't just divorcing her. They were planning to destroy her, accuse her of crimes, ensure she got nothing. She found one more document that made her blood run cold. A psychiatric evaluation dated for next week, scheduled as couples therapy, in James's calendar. But the document showed it was pre-written, diagnosing Natalie with delusional disorder. They were going to declare her mentally ill to justify a restraining order and discredit anything she said. If you're still watching, comment still watching and tell me, would you confront him now or gather more evidence? Because what Natalie does next is brilliant. Natalie backed up everything and called a lawyer she'd read about, Sarah Chin, who specialized in marriage fraud cases. "This is one of the most calculated fraud cases I've ever seen," Sarah said after hearing everything. "But you have evidence. We can destroy him." "What do I do?" Natalie asked. "Act normal," Sarah said. "Don't let him know you know anything. Can you do that?" Natalie thought about 5 years of lies. "Yes. We file after Victoria's baby is born," Sarah explained. "We need that baby as evidence. Once born, it proves the affair predated your marriage. They're planning to use it against you, but we'll use it against them." "How?" "They claim the baby proves your marriage was fraudulent so James can access his trust and divorce you. We claim it proves James committed marriage fraud against you, making the prenup void and the trust marital property. You'd be entitled to half of everything." "Half of $2 billion? Natalie asked. $1 billion, Sarah confirmed. "And the fake psychiatric evaluation? That's criminal conspiracy. We report the doctor and lawyer. They could lose their licenses, face charges." Over the next few hours, Sarah outlined the plan. Wait for the baby. File comprehensive lawsuits the day after birth. Sue for divorce, fraud, emotional distress, theft. Report the doctor and lawyer to authorities. Request forensic audit of James's finances. Hold a press conference controlling the narrative before James could. "He'll try to destroy your reputation," Sarah warned. "Can you handle that?" Natalie thought about the video of James and Victoria on her wedding day. "Yes." That night, James came home at midnight. Natalie pretended to sleep. He got into bed, put his arm around her, whispered, "I love you," to her supposedly sleeping form. She said nothing. The next morning, she made breakfast like always. "Morning, beautiful," James said, kissing her cheek. "Big day?" "Always," he smiled. "But I should be home for dinner tonight." "That would be nice," Natalie said, serving eggs and coffee, playing the loving wife. When he left, she nearly broke. But she called Sarah. "I can't do this. I can't pretend." 3 weeks until the baby," Sarah said. "You can do anything for 3 weeks." But that evening, James came home looking nervous. "I need to tell you something," he said. Here it comes, Natalie thought. "Victoria is pregnant," James admitted. "My cousin Victoria?" Natalie asked, feigning shock. "We've been having an affair. Since before I met you. I should have ended it, but I didn't. I'm sorry." "Before you met me." The lie he was selling. "How long?" Natalie asked, voice shaking. 6 years, James said. "I owe you honesty. I want a divorce." "I don't want that," Natalie said, because old Natalie would have said it. "I love you. We can work through this." "Be realistic," James said with an edge. "I have a baby coming. This marriage is over. I need time," Natalie said. "Take all you need," James replied, pulling her into a hug. The performance was perfect. He was the regretful husband, giving her space, before hitting her with legal destruction. "I'll stay with a friend," Natalie said. "I need space." That night she went to a hotel and called Sarah. "He told me. He moved up the timeline." "Good," Sarah said. "More evidence of active deception. Don't sign anything. We're waiting for that baby." Victoria's baby was born January 12th. Natalie found out from a social media post showing Victoria in a hospital bed, James beside her, his hand on her shoulder. "Welcome to the world, baby Noah," So grateful for this blessing and for the man who gave him to me. At James Morrison. The comments included congratulations from Natalie's own family. Her aunt. So proud of you both. Can't wait to meet my grandson. They knew. Some of her family knew and said nothing. Natalie called Sarah. File everything. 24 hours later, Sarah filed the most comprehensive legal assault imaginable. Divorce claiming fraud with 300 pages of evidence. Civil suits against James for emotional distress, fraud, theft. Civil suit against Victoria as co-conspirator. Criminal complaints against the psychiatrist and lawyer. Request for forensic examination of all finances. Immediate restraining order preventing James from hiding assets. And a press release explaining that Natalie Morrison was divorcing her billionaire husband after discovering a multi-year fraud scheme, including sabotaged fertility treatments and plans to have her declared mentally unstable. By noon, the story was everywhere. By 3 p.m., James's lawyers claimed Natalie was having a mental health crisis. By 5 p.m., Sarah released a fake psychiatric evaluation, proving it was fabricated. By 8 p.m., 3 other women came forward claiming James had manipulated them similarly. By midnight, Victoria deleted her social media. The next morning, James called. We need to talk, he said, voice hard now. The gentle husband act was gone. Talk to my lawyer, Natalie said and hung up. Over the next days, more truth emerged. James had been sued twice before by ex-girlfriends for manipulation. Both settled with NDAs. Forensic accountants found more offshore accounts, more hidden money. Then a woman named Elena Rodriguez contacted Sarah's office. I was James Morrison's first wife, Elena said. We were married from 2012 to 2015. He did everything to me that he did to your client. First wife. James told me our marriage was annulled, Elena explained. But I have a marriage certificate. If it was never properly dissolved, his marriage to Natalie might not be legal. And he might have committed bigamy. Elena's story was identical. James targeted her, married her, carried on an affair, then threatened her into accepting an annulment and tiny settlement. He said he'd destroy me if I fought, Elena said. Why come forward now? Natalie asked when they spoke. Because you're fighting, Elena said simply. And I want him to face consequences. With Elena's evidence, the case showed a pattern. The district attorney opened a criminal investigation for fraud, bigamy, and conspiracy. James's company's stock dropped 15% in one day. Board members called for his resignation. Through it all, James claimed innocence, saying he was the victim of vindictive women after his money. But the evidence was overwhelming. The divorce took 8 months to resolve. 8 months of legal battles, depositions, financial audits, media coverage. The final settlement came in September, almost exactly 1 year after Natalie overheard that phone call. James Morrison would pay Natalie $1.2 billion, the largest divorce settlement in California history. The prenup was voided for fraud. James had to pay all Natalie's legal fees and issue a public apology. Victoria was ordered to pay $5 million in a separate settlement. The psychiatrist lost his license. The lawyer was disbarred and faced criminal charges. James resigned from his company, his name now synonymous with fraud. Elena received a settlement for what James did to her years ago. And Natalie, the art teacher who thought she married her soulmate, walked away with resources beyond imagination and hard-won understanding of her own strength. She didn't keep all the money. Half went to a foundation helping women escape manipulative relationships, funding legal aid, supporting art education. With the rest, she bought a small house in Marin County overlooking the ocean. She quit teaching and became a full-time artist, creating paintings about betrayal, survival, transformation. Her first show sold out in 3 days. She reconnected with family members who hadn't known about the fraud. She cut off those who had. Family was about loyalty, not blood. On the anniversary of that phone call, Natalie sat on her deck watching sunset over the Pacific. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it but answered. Natalie? It was James. How did you get this number? I'm calling to really apologize, James said. Not the public statement. I need you to know I'm sorry. Are you sorry you did it or sorry you got caught? Natalie asked. Long silence. Maybe both, James admitted. Thanks for the honesty, I guess, Natalie said. You were the only one who saw me, James continued. Not the money or success, just me. And I threw it away because I was too greedy to recognize what I had. You're right, Natalie said. You did. It wasn't worth it, James said quietly. I lost everything. The company, my reputation, most of my money. Victoria left 6 months ago, took our son across the country. I'm alone. I did it to myself. Natalie felt unexpected sadness. Not for what she lost, but for who James might have been if he'd chosen differently. I hope you find a way to live with what you've done, Natalie said. But I need you to know something. This is our last conversation. I've forgiven you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. So this is goodbye. I understand, James said. Goodbye, Natalie. I really am sorry. I know, she said. But sorry doesn't fix what you broke. She hung up. The sun set, painting the sky gold and purple. Natalie picked up her paintbrush and started a new piece, capturing the transition from day to night, the beauty in endings, the promise in beginnings. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Dinner tomorrow? Want you to meet someone. Fellow artist. Good guy. No pressure. Natalie smiled. Maybe she wasn't ready for romance. Maybe she'd never fully trust again the way she trusted James. But she was ready to keep living, creating, building a life authentically hers. And that was enough. So let me ask you this. If you overheard that phone call and discovered your marriage was fraud, what would you have done? Confronted him immediately or built a case first? Comment, confront, or investigate? And the bigger question, is forgiveness possible after betrayal this calculated? Can you forgive someone who orchestrated your entire relationship as a con? What does forgiveness even mean here? Here's what Natalie's story teaches us. Trust is sacred. People who violate it don't deserve second chances, they deserve consequences. Betrayal isn't just the act, it's the calculation behind it, the lies enabling it, the lack of remorse allowing it to continue. Sometimes people claiming to love us are using us, seeing us as tools for what they want. But this story also teaches strength. The courage to fight when instinct says crumble. The wisdom knowing justice requires patience and strategy, not immediate emotion. The resilience to rebuild after discovering everything was a lie. Natalie could have let James destroy her, accepted divorce on his terms, taken the prenup pittance, disappeared while he lived his life. But she fought. And she won. Not just financially, but emotionally. She took back her power, dignity, future. Where are you watching from? Have you discovered someone you loved was lying about something fundamental? How did you handle it? What advice would you give someone going through this? Share in the comments. Your story might be what someone else needs to hear. If this resonated with you, if it made you think about trust, betrayal, and fighting for yourself, share it with someone who needs it. Thank you for watching Western Stories, where we share powerful tales about love, betrayal, and human resilience. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. And next week, we have something shocking. A woman discovered her husband had been living a double life for 15 years with a complete second family 3 towns away. How she found out, and what she did next will leave you speechless. Make sure you're subscribed. Until then, remember, people who truly love you don't plot your destruction. They don't manipulate for gain. They don't build relationships on lies. If you discover someone has done these things, you have every right to fight back with everything you have. You deserve truth. You deserve respect. You deserve love without hidden agendas. Never settle for less. I'll see you in the next one.